Welcome everyone to the EORTC, to the European Organization for Research and Treatment of Cancer. Our organization has a mission and we address more specifically survival and quality of life of cancer patients. And we do that through the conduct of cancer clinical trials and related projects. And this will be explained to you in details after an introductory movie about the objectives and the mission of this organization. The organization, of course, puts a lot of emphasis on prolonging the life of cancer patients, but also quality of life. It's very important for us to work for patients, but also with patients, in order to understand their expectation about the disease, about the treatment, and of course the life beyond the treatment. This year is very important for the organization as we celebrate our 60th anniversary, 60 years of therapeutic progress. And we hope to continue for many, many years to improve the survival and the quality of life of cancer patients.
"50 years ago, the survival rate for cancer patients was low. Doctors and researchers needed a much better understanding of the disease and more effective forms of treatment. Today, things are different. We are the European Organization for Research and Treatment of Cancer, an international independent leader in clinical cancer research, a unique non-profit organization with more than 200 dedicated staff. At EORTC, we activate clinical research in over 30 countries. With the invaluable help from over 200,000 participating patients, we have improved the quality of life and survival rate for cancer patients around the world. How? We design, coordinate, and conduct clinical research spanning every aspect of cancer management, from surgery and radiotherapy to cutting-edge imaging and new systemic therapies. No other organization carries out pan-European clinical studies for all cancer types, including rare tumors, or across such a broad demographic, leaving no one behind. Think of the larynx, think of the breast, think of the brain, all practice-changing clinical trials research carried out by us, showing that organ-sparing treatment can be done. This has massively increased the value of quality of life of our patients, not only in Europe, but worldwide. With precision medicine and innovative patient-centered research, we continue our fight against cancer. EORTC is at the forefront of a changing landscape, implementing new infrastructures, platforms, and systems for conducting research. EORTC still has a lot of work to do, but with the commitment of our highly qualified staff and the invaluable collaboration with our network of devoted healthcare professionals, EORTC is setting standards, bringing hope to cancer patients around the world. EORTC, the future of cancer therapy.
In clinical trials, we are trying to do experiments, testing new treatments or old treatments in new ways in patients with cancer to see whether we can intervene with their disease and improve the duration or the quality of their life. So in essence, they are experiments. And as experiments, we try to set the conditions in a way that we have confidence that we get an answer that is reasonably we are reasonably secure that we will be able to use it on real patients in the clinic. So clinical trials also include real patients. So we set these experiments in a way that first we get our answer. So the comparison, if there is a comparison, or the treatment we give if it's only one treatment, is valid, is something that should be reasonably given to such a patient, and we do not expect that treatment to harm the patient. And second, it's no worse than the existing treatment that the patient would get in the absence of the clinical trial. So that's the first part. We may try to make them scientifically valid, so the result is reliable. We can use it. We can use it either to treat patients immediately or we can use it to build the next clinical trial that would bring a specific drug or a specific treatment type closer to patients in real life. The second aspect of a clinical trial is that it has to happen, of course. There are experiments, but they are not happening in the lab. A lot has happened in the lab before a treatment has reached real patients in clinical trials, but clinical trials happen in hospitals with real patients that have real cancer and they need real treatment. So there is a huge organizational setup needed to reach hundreds, sometimes thousands of patients in a clinical trial in environments that are diverse enough to give us confidence that the result is not specialized to a specific situation. For example, we need many hospitals. We need hospitals of different size, big, small, medium. We need hospitals in many countries in different continents with different health systems to be able to have some trust that we can reasonably use this treatment in the clinic. So there is a big organizational setup, starting from contacting the hospitals, talking with the doctors, making them agree, talking to the patients and making the patients agree, and then making sure that the conduct of the trial, the treatment is given in a controlled way, and the data and the results are collected and calculated in a way that we can actually use. If we have learned something along these decades of the existence of EORTC, is that we need to be very careful now in clinical trials not to relax and rely on past assumptions. We have learned to test all hypotheses and to look at clinical problems from different angles. For example, many of the successes of clinical trials at EORTC, many of the successful results that have been applied and still are being applied in the clinic are results that are addressed in different treatment modalities. Sometimes we have a drug and we think this is what we need to do, this is what we need to give, and most of the time this is correct. But maybe we can intervene in a different way. Maybe we can change the timing of surgery. Maybe we can have surgery to remove the tumor after we have given the drug or before we have given the drug. Maybe we need to give radiotherapy before the treatment with the drug or concurrently with the treatment of the drug. Many of the trials of EORTC in the past have been testing these different treatment modalities. So one lesson we have learned is to look at the treatment holistically and of course look to the patient holistically, because a patient will feel different even if the result in terms of survival is the same if the treatment is a drug, if the treatment is a drug given by the mouth orally, if the treatment is an intravenous drug that needs hospitalization, if the treatment is radiotherapy that lasts for a few weeks, or the treatment is surgery that is very fast but needs a few weeks of recovery. All these different combinations have a different effect on the patient, even if the formal mathematical result of the survival is the same. So we have learned throughout the decades to look holistically, to look at all the different aspects and angles of treatment for the patient. If we continue to do our job correctly, every successful clinical trial, every successful new treatment that is implemented in the clinic on real patients will not stay forever. We will have a new treatment even better than the previous one to replace it or to complement it. And we have seen that the last several years, there has been an acceleration of new treatment types, new products, a lot of competition from pharmaceutical companies, new technologies in radiotherapy, new technologies in surgery, and all this come together faster than they ever did. So there is a need for the future to continue doing what we are doing without losing the robustness of our result, but to do it faster, to iterate faster in a way that we can incorporate new knowledge, a new treatment, before it's too late, before the knowledge is stale, or before we are left with too many options that we don't know how to use. So a big challenge, something that I'm looking forward to tackle into the future, is how to move faster and also how to incorporate many different options in our clinical trials. The modern clinical trials we're doing frequently do not compare two treatments with each other. They compare more. They compare 3, 4, 5. They compare different treatment modalities. They compare different sequencing of events of new drugs or of old drugs or a combination of new and old drugs and other treatment. So we need to find a way to improve the speed of our delivery without losing anything in the robustness of our result. And that's a very nice challenge to have.
There are many different definitions of what quality of life is. And for me at the UITC, it's really the social well-being, the physical well-being and emotional well-being. And we put these all together and this is what quality of life is. And it's really what the patient says. What is quality of life to them? And at the UITC, one of our key factors is to develop tools or measures or questionnaires that we can assess quality of life with patients. And we have at least 70 questionnaires that we've developed over the last 30 years. We assess quality of life in all of the major diseases like breast cancer, lung cancer, and even the rare diseases like sarcoma, for example. And we translate these into many different languages. I believe at least 100 translations or different languages for our main measure. In addition to that, we do clinical trials. And in most of our phase 3 large clinical trials, we include quality of life. You see, it's not only important to see if you have a large or improvement in survival, but if you have an improvement in quality of life. So for example, if you live an extra few months or an extra few years, how is that impacting on your quality of life? Is that a good few extra years that you've had? Are you happier? Do you have a lot of fatigue? Are you able to do your normal functioning? And that's what we're able to do with these measures. We're able to assess the extra time that the patients have and their extra quality of life. I think over the last 30 or so years of the UITC, the main results that we find are really the measures that we've created. We've made more than 70 questionnaires that we give to cancer patients. These are very reliable, very robust. They're now accepted by many regulatory authorities, such as the EMEA, the European regulatory body, and the FDA, the USA regulatory body. Patients are involved in developing all of these, and it usually takes 3 or 4 years. We now have more than 70 of these measures. They're reliable and they're robust for people to use. And so this is the main output that I recommend that people look at when they look at our organization. The other thing is to look at the clinical trials. And every year we have about 2 or 3 large phase 3 clinical trials where we test a new drug and we better understand that drug on survival and the clinical endpoint. And of course we always include quality of life. So those publications, patients are able to see the trajectory of the disease and the impact on their quality of life. So that really helps patients and clinicians better understanding the patient and better treating them. Well, there are many things that are going on at the moment. Of course, we have many new clinical trials, lots of drugs in development, and we can't wait to find out how those treatments affecting patients' quality of life. Of course, we have many new instruments because once you develop an instrument, you can't just let it stand there. After 10 years, we review the instrument. Is it still reliably affecting and assessing those treatments of those cancer patients? Because treatments change over time, and of course, you have to change the questionnaire, how you assess them. So we've got a lot of those studies updating our measures ongoing. And of course, we have to improve our standards of how we do quality of life. So for example, there's been many publications about how we publish quality of life results in journals. And here at the UITC, we've set a consortium up with many regulators and academics, and we're trying to standardize how we analyze quality of life. And we hope in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have international guidelines where everybody will be working to the same process about analyzing the data, because that's been a particular challenge in the past, where not everybody's used the same techniques. So similar trials could look different. So if we improve standards, if we continue to produce measures, and we have lots of good results from trials, I think that's a good result that I'll be excited about in the future. Now, if you're a pharmacist and a cancer patient comes into your shop or your office and they have a particular symptom, or you want to understand a little bit better about their symptoms, then it's really easy to go to the UITC website. And on that website, you can see the questionnaires and you can download those questionnaires. And you will read them and you will see the issues that can affect your cancer patient. And of course, these measures are meant to be used in clinical trials. But by just looking at those questions, it'll give you an idea of the typical symptoms and the typical problems that those cancer patients could have. And it could help you, for example, facilitate some questions or discussions about those particular symptoms. And maybe you get a bit better understanding of those too.